So welcome back, and in today's video we are gonna start hopefully get the short block fully assembled, or I guess just get the pistons and rods in. So to get the pistons and rods in, we have to where are they? 1 second. We have to file these guys down. Piston rings. I am gonna do a quick but kind of detailed walkthrough of how I filed down my piston rings and how a majority of other people will be filing it down if you're in your garage doing it yourself, not a professional machine shop, but a professional engine builder. So I'll do a little walkthrough of that, and then we are also going to be talking about rod bolt stretch. So a lot of people, they'll just torque it down to the recommended torque, but if you want to go a step further and really make sure that your rods are bolted down correctly onto the journal, you want to measure bolt stretch. But first, we're gonna start off with piston rings. So I already filed 3 of the 4 cylinders. I'm just gonna walk through the final cylinder with you guys and explain how wide the gap should go, how you should file it, and how often you should check it, how to check it with feeler gauge. Alright, so what you're gonna need for filing down your piston rings are a piston ring filer. I mean, there are ways to do it with just like a jeweler's file or like a gritty file and just file it down by hand, but I mean, if you're gonna be spending a lot of money building your engine, why not just spend the extra like 30, 40, 50 bucks to get this instead of like the jeweler filers, right? You're already going probably $1,000 into your build or more. Don't cheap out, just grab a piston ring filer. It's worth it, makes the job way easier, and make sure that you're filing straight and not on an angle or curved. That's the main concern with using one of these. You're also gonna need a feeler gauge. This is optional, a vernier caliper. What I do is just to make sure my feeler gauges aren't stuck together, and I pinch whatever piece of feeler gauge that I'm using, like that, and then it lets me know exactly what I'm using. Usually when you open it, if it didn't shake whenever it was getting shipped, your first ring, see this one kind of moved a bit, but your first ring is your top ring that goes on your piston, and your top ring for me, I'm pretty sure a lot of other builds as well, is going to be the chrome shiny one. It's a little bit of harder material, harder to flex and bend. It feels stronger. This is your compression ring, so this one goes on the very top of your piston. This one's the one that's going to be harder to file because it's going to be a tougher material. This is your second ring. It's more like a matte black, kind of like a charcoal type of look. And when you file this down, it files down really fast, so you want to be careful with this. Go very slow because this is a softer, lighter material to work with. It'll file really quickly, so just be careful with that. And these 3 rings, or whatever you want to call this, these ones don't be filing at all. These are your oil control ring, and then these are just 2 rings that sit on the top and bottom of the oil control ring. I think that's what it's called, but these ones you don't need to file at all. Super easy, just let them leave them in the box, put them to the side, and it'll be good to go. It also gives you a little chart over here that tells you what you should set your ring gaps to. So for me, I chose, I think, street moderate turbo / nitrous. That is requiring, it's telling me to multiply my bore size for the top ring, multiply my bore size by 0.005 inches. So a thing to remember is when you're multiplying it by your bore size, if you know it in millimeters, which I do, my bore size is 88 millimeters oversized for the MZR motor. You have to convert 88 millimeters to inches. So 88 millimeters to inches for me is 3.46 inches. So what I do is multiply 3.46 inches to 0.05 inches for the top ring, which is this one. We multiply 3.46, multiply that by 0.005 inches. These are all in inches. We get 0.0173 inches. That's how wide the gap needs to be. Out of your entire engine build, you should take the most time in filing your rings and making sure they're accurate, because like I said, very important. This is very crucial to your engine. This holds in all the compression and makes all the power. Alright, so we'll start off with filing. So this is a piston ring file I got off Summit Racing. It was 80 bucks Canadian, I think, and 50 bucks US. But you just want to rest the ring like this. Also, when you're filing, you want to choose one side of the ring to file. Only file on one side. Choose either or. Do not file both sides. So what I did is I filed the side without the numbers and the writing. So you'll see on one side of your ring, I don't know if you guys can really see, there'll be some writing on it. Mine says N100. I'm writing on the other side where there is no writing on my ring, so this side. The writing just indicates that that's the top of the ring, so when you put it on your piston, you don't put it upside down, you put it right side up. And then put it on the filer. Move it to the side, make sure you're looking from above and make sure that it's sitting flush with the grinding wheel. Add your spinning thing, hold it down with your finger, and when you're filing or grinding it down, you want the wheel to spin towards you inwards. So the ring is filing, it's turning this way, it's pushing the rough edges to the burrs and stuff inside, I guess. So you want to file towards you. Oh, it's going to be hard showing it with the camera, one person. I'll try my best. Whoa. Alright. This is the best angle I'll get. Oops. Wipe it off, make sure there's no metal shavings. You want to keep it as clean as possible. So the way I do it is I put the ring upright, compress it a bit, squeeze it together, push it in, and I won't put it in all the way, just I'll show you in the torque plate section. But yeah, so squeeze it, put it in, and then I just bend it down over like that, and it should sit in there. And you get your piston, sit it in there. I choose the marking points to make sure my piston's going in flat. This point and this point right here. Once they meet something flush, or I guess there's a torque plate in here, it won't go down anymore. But in your scenario, it should go down all the way. So make sure both sides are equal heights. They're not in at an angle. And once you know it's when they're flush, get your feeler gauge and start measuring. Before, my piston wouldn't go all the way down because the torque plate is not flush with the bore, so it was kind of hitting the slip. The ring was, but I got the ring inside the actual cylinder bore. So you get your piston, and you go down. I'm gonna keep on going down until it hits flush, or there it is. I think that's in there straight enough. Now, if we look, oops, like so. If we look in here, that's the ring gap. Right there, it is touching. It's super tight right now. But all you do is keep on filing down on the side without the numbers, or whichever side you choose to file. And then you just keep on checking it with the feeler gauge. You get in with the size that you need. Put it in between there. And to know that you're at the right size is you'll feel the feeler gauge slide in, but it won't go in like really loosely. You'll feel a little bit of drag and a little bit of friction, like it's grabbing just a little bit. Alright, so we got all the piston rings filed. All we have left to do is just install them onto our piston here. So what I like to do is I like to first start to clean it with some brake clean. So I just spray brake clean everywhere. You know, you can never be too clean, just spray it off. Get some compressed air, blow out all the rig alley. Get that done. Also, don't forget, after you're done filing your rings, deburr the edges, because there might be some sharp edges. What side did I file? I filed this side over here. So what I like to do is get some sandpaper on the edges and kind of like just grind out of the way slowly, but you don't want to take off too much material because you already measured them to size. So slowly just scratch off all of that deburr. You can use a jeweler's file. I'm using, I think, like 1000 grit or 500 grit sandpaper, but nothing too rough, just rough enough to get the burrs off. So start off with the oil control rings. You're gonna have two very small rings, thinnest rings out of all of them, and then you're gonna have one wiggly, weird looking one. So start with the wiggly, weird looking one. It has there's kind of like ends. They like to interlock with each other, but you don't want them to interlock. You want them to be end to end. Don't overlap at all, just end to end. And you put that on the very bottom. The way I put it on is literally, it's flexible enough that you just slide it right on at the very bottom, the biggest gap on your piston right here, and make sure that the ends go to end, and that it's butt to butt, it's not overlapping at all. Then you get your small ring. These are flexible enough too that you can just use your hands, and you put it on the bottom first. Now we just have to put this one on top. So I like to start on one end, put it where I want it to be. So I'm gonna put the piston up with it. Start on one end, put the ring where I want it to be, which is right on top of the oil control ring. I just move my hands around, slide it on. And boom, slides on. Basically, you want to start from the bottom of the piston and work your way up. So after the bottom one is the second one, and we hit the rings of brake clean as well, because why not? And you could use your hand. I'm not going to use my hand. This tool was only $10, a piston ring spreader, so there's no point risking breaking your rings by flexing them with your fingers, but all it does is it gets in like that, and it just spreads the rings like that. And you want to fit it in the second groove, so spread it. Pops right on. And for the top ring, same thing. Hit it with some brake clean. Have a piston ring spreader. Spread them and just slide it over. So I got all rings on. It's pretty easy and simple. Just make sure that when you're putting on your rings do have a proper way to go, and they can go on up or down. See, your rings can go up or down, and you want all of them. Or read your instructions for your specific engine, or the instructions that come with your rings. But my rings, all of them, the writing is supposed to be facing up. Because if you actually look really closely at them, they aren't just symmetrical. The black ring has kind of like a tapered edge going downwards, and the top ring has a slight tapered edge going on the top of the ring. So they actually do have a right side up and upside down position, so make sure you have it the right way.